giving them a raise. KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla reports.
The raise includes a direct salary increase of $1,400 and a $1,000 bonus for their support staff. House Speaker Mike Schultz says the state is making historic investments in education.
We're going to provide funding for additional educator professional time, teacher supply and materials, stipends for student teachers, and grow your own education pipeline program.
Schultz says teachers and education are among the legislature's highest priorities, and that's why they work to make Utah teachers the highest paid in the Intermountain West. Alexandria Bonilla, KSL News Radio.
The Utah Education Association says the raises announced by Utah state leaders today do not go far enough. The union that represents teachers called the salary increases political posturing that does little to address the burnout and lack of support for teachers across the state. The UEA also points out that this move comes from the same people who passed a union-busting bill that prevents teachers and other public service employees from collective bargaining. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 209 points, the S&P is up 31, and the NASDAQ up 84. Coming up, the warm this weekend before next week's storm. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 101.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
If you've ever set New Year's resolutions before, you know how difficult it is to follow through because you have to wait to see the results. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and in honor of your New Year, New You resolutions, Any Hour Services is having our New Year, New System sale. From now until the end of February, Any Hour Services will give you $2,025 off a new furnace and air conditioner. And you don't have to wait to save the money. You get $2,025 off at the time of purchase. The only thing you have to do to qualify for our New Year, New System sale is call Any Hour Services and schedule a free estimate. When you call, there's no obligation to buy. Just schedule a time to meet that works best for you. Let me say that again. From now until the end of February, when you have Any Hour Services install a new furnace and air conditioner, we'll give you $2,025 off. Call Any Hour Services right now and schedule a free estimate. 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Hi, Susan. We haven't seen or heard from you.
Cold.
We would like to locate Joyce.
The mysteries that made podcast history.
Cherie Warren disappeared.
Are now together for free at kslpodcasts.com.
I'm Dave Cawley, the host of Cold. Join me for Season 1, The Susan Powell Case Files. Season 2, Justice for Joyce. And Season 3, The Search for Cherie. Listen anytime for free at kslpodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Rod with the Save Right team at Realty Path. I also own Save Right Mortgage. When building this new and disruptive business model, my attorney said, quote, "You'll rock the boat and make your competitors mad. There's no way they can compete with the value Save Right offers home buyers." She's right. Other real estate agents and mortgage lenders can't compete with Save Right. However, Utah home buyers love Save Right. Save Right home buyers get bankbuster loans with below market interest rates. Save Right clients buy bigger, nicer homes. Their monthly payments are hundreds less. Bankbuster loans save home buyers hundreds of thousands in interest. Start with a rate in the twos. Call 801-APPROVE or visit SaveRight.com. Start with a rate in the twos. Call 801-APPROVE or visit SaveRight.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's limited time balance transfer bonus. Here's Ricky Meese.
We do have a crash in Draper. It had been blocking a center lane of traffic at State Street, not far from 123rd South. Then in Utah County, a rollover accident westbound Highway 189 Provo Canyon at Canyon View Park, and it is blocking a right lane. Whipple Service Champions, your cooling, heating, plumbing, drains, and electrical specialist. Whipple that away. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
It'll be a sunny weekend, highs in the upper 50s and then even the low 60s on Sunday. But after that, we're back in the 40s as a storm rolls in on Monday. Right now, it's mostly sunny and 48 degrees. I'm Heather Peterson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
An explosive argument in the Oval Office today between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, President Donald Trump, and Vice President J.D. Vance. And all captured on camera. Welcome to Inside Sources. I'm your host, Leah Murray. I'm here with Marty Carpenter to have an excellent conversation today about huge news that was breaking. Now, Marty, Trump and Zelensky met this morning to discuss a deal about minerals, right? I feel like minerals is, not really at all what anyone thought they were meeting to talk about.
Yeah, we were talking just before we came on that, I left the office to come to the station and thought, oh, okay, the White House plan is to sign a deal on these minerals. And by the time I got here, everyone said, oh, you have to watch what just happened while you were in your car.
Yeah. So let's listen to that together. And I just want to make my listeners aware that this is kind of a long soundbite because we're going to listen to comments from Zelensky talking about Russian President Vladimir Putin. And then you'll hear Vice President Vance and President Trump jumping in.
He broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Count once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. But right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's backed you far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once? This entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you? You went to Pennsylvania in camp opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you can...
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
you
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military equipment, and your men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment, if you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days. I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something
maybe
new.
Less.
In 2 weeks. Of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of times
except that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful.
All right, Marty. I would like to have a conversation about this whole what happened today. First, because you are an expert.
First, let me just say thank you.
Okay.
Because I want to make sure we're on the same page.
You have to always say thank you.
And you have not said thank you one time.
Thank you, Marty.
Okay. Now
yes.
we've taken care of the niceties. Let's move on.
What is the way we think about how we conduct geopolitical business? So one, you are a communications expert. Can you please tell me and our listeners, did that sound in any way productive? I mean, is that a good way to have a meeting like that?
So 2 notes I would say just on to that question. The first one I would say is this was not an unusual meeting. It was unusual access for us to be able to see a meeting like that.
Okay, so explain that people have these fights all the time, but usually it happens
behind closed doors, right? Like that's the reason you generally have a press conference and don't let the media into these types of discussions. I would imagine, though I have not been, personally in a meeting on foreign policy, I would imagine that they're not always conducted with nice, soft voices and a lot of my kind friend over here says this and that. That's what we get in public. To get something done, you have to have a discussion like that. It's odd that we got to see it. And, I've been in meetings not of that importance, but certainly where people disagree, where an elected official disagrees with a stakeholder, and they'll hash it out. I watched it and thought, it's actually kind of a healthy way to hash it out. To a certain extent, it's unusual that we had that kind of access to it. The second thing I would say is that there were a number of points within that discussion in the clip that we just listened to when it became evident that when you get into an argument, people stop listening to one another and they start just trying to make a point. And we shouldn't miss the fact that the two guys mainly in the shot, and we're looking at four or five TVs here, and it's in a couple of them. We can see it in at least 2 or 3 places now. Those are 2 reality TV stars who are sitting there who now lead their countries and know a thing or two about how do you grab attention, how do you hold attention, and to a certain extent, when the cameras are rolling, how do you not get run over so that you hurt your brand? So I think there's a lot of really interesting elements on the communication side of what's going on here.
Yeah, no, and I wonder too about, what you just said made me think, perhaps a min-qual, or like you cannot be a media star. I don't know. I mean, a little bit this feels like we watched 2 people argue, and then you can hear Vice President Vance. And so actually, Marty, let me just pause right there and say, what is it about? It's about you being thankful. I feel like United States foreign policy used to be about, kind of making sure that there's world peace with our national security and our economic interest in mind. So we want to kind of tell everyone what to do so that we get what's the best interest for us. And now I mostly hear Vice President Vance in that meeting saying, I'm looking for gratitude. Does that reflect a shift, or do you think that's just, that meeting became about little things and petty things and not really what we were supposed to be talking about?
Probably more the latter than the former, but I would also say that in the second listening, and this was the second time I'd listened to it, this clip that we just had, I also think you could give the vice president some credit for saying, hey, if you just would say thanks here, we could get this meeting back on schedule. We could get back to what we were here to do. I don't know for sure that that's what he was trying to do, but to a certain extent, if there was the emotional maturity in the room, and if I'm, putting yourself a little bit in the shoes of Zelensky here and saying, what the president's right. We're toast if we don't have the United States behind us. So whether I have thanked them, whether I feel like I've thanked them abundantly, if they don't feel thanked, my only thing I've got to do first and foremost is make sure they feel thanked. Yeah. Make sure they do that, because that could have reset the meeting if he would have said, I feel like I may have said something inadvertently that offended you. I want you to understand how grateful I am and how grateful the Ukrainian people are for what the United States has contributed. We know we're not anywhere close to capable of defending ourselves. We appreciate this partnership, and it's the most important thing to us. We want to work to support the common goal of ending this and da-da-da-da-da, right? No one put those brakes on in the meeting. And I thought Zelensky, because of the dynamics of the meeting and the cards he, as the president pointed out, doesn't hold, needed to be the one to say, hey, let's pause. Let's make sure that we're on the same team.
All right, we're going to stick with this topic for another segment or two here on Inside Sources, discussing the personalities of Trump and Zelensky, how it contributed to this argument. Stay with us.
Someone asked me the other day, do you know how many devices the average home has connected to their Wi-Fi network? It's way more than I thought. I actually went home and counted my connected devices, more than a dozen, all to keep me connected to the good stuff, streaming, my gaming, interneting, you name it. Xfinity knows the number of connected devices you have is growing by the year. That's why they engineered their gateways to handle hundreds of connected devices. Hundreds, for real. Now through March 18th, get Xfinity Gig Internet for $25 a month for 1 year with no annual contract and Wi-Fi equipment included when you add an unlimited mobile line, and ask how to get an eligible free 5G phone with trade-in. Make sure your home Wi-Fi can handle everything you throw at it and then some. Visit Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store to switch today. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account, taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply. Xfinity Internet required. Reduced mobile speeds after use of monthly data included with your data option. Data thresholds and actual internet speeds vary.
Are you 50 or older? This news is for you. The CDC now recommends you get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at risk. People 50 or older are over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia compared to adults 18 to 49. Just one shot can help protect you. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com. That's VAXassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to the A to Z savings event at AutoZone.
Yeah, happy to be here. Can I get some rotors?
Would you like brake pads with that?
How much are the brake pads?
Free with the rotors.
Free. Really?
Really, free.
Okay, I also need some oil.
Would you like an oil filter with that?
Yeah, how much is that?
Free with 5 quarts of oil.
Free? Really?
Really, free. It's part of the A to Z savings event.
You might as well call it A to free.
At AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Jackson Hewitt wants you to save money on tax prep. We're saving money by having our intern rap in this commercial.
Don't stress, Jackson Hewitt's got expert tax prep, $149 or less. Yo, some tax guys lie about price. What? They got hidden fees, that ain't nice. Ain't nice. Don't ignore MC Kevin's rhyme, cause this deal's for a limited time. $149.
For tax prep that's $149 or less, hurry into Jackson Hewitt today.
No cap.
Limited time offer for new clients on federal returns. Participating locations only. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com/149.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to the A to Z savings event at AutoZone.
Yeah, happy to be here. Can I get some rotors?
Would you like brake pads with that?
How much are the brake pads?
Free with the rotors.
Free. Really?
Really, free.
Okay, I also need some oil.
Would you like an oil filter with that?
Yeah, how much is that?
Free with 5 quarts of oil.
Free. Really?
Really, free. It's part of the A to Z savings event.
You might as well call it A to free.
At AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
We are staying with the story of the explosive argument in the Oval Office today. Our last segment, we kind of dug into it, listened to a soundbite where you could hear the fight happening. So I just want to put back to you, Marty Carpenter, that Zelensky hops onto X and says, "Thank you, America. Thank you for your support. Thank you for this visit. Thank you at POTUS, Congress, and the American people. Ukraine needs just and lasting peace, and we are working exactly for that." Senator Mike Lee hopped onto X and said, "Thank you for standing up for our country and putting America first, President Trump and Vice President Vance." So a little bit on the calm side, I'm probably just picking on you on your expertise. Is that enough, like Zelensky showing gratitude that way? And then what do you think about Senator Lee and what that reflects?
So enough is only in the ears of the beholder, right? So it depends. He's got an audience of 2 basically right there, and so it just depends. Depends on how that hits the ear or hits the eye for the vice president and the president. Is it a step in the right direction? Very much so. And like I tried to make the point last segment, if someone had said that, if he had paused and said something along those lines as things started to get heated, you may have had a better outcome in that meeting, right? That goes to the emotional intelligence of him having to say, okay, what cards do I really hold, and where do I need to reset things? And the president, by the way, totally understanding the cards he holds and saying, hey, I'm not going to get pushed around, and you're not going to come into my office in front of my media pool and say all these things and try to reset things like we don't know what we're talking about or that our position isn't right, right? So they both kind of had they both forced themselves into a position where they had to puff their chests and say, I'm going to stay on brand. Now, to Senator Lee's tweet, I still think when it comes to like whether or not the U.S. is being taken advantage of by foreign countries, it may not be an 80-20 issue, but it's more than a 51-49 issue that I think Americans go, yeah, I'm kind of sick of writing the check all the time and paying for everything for the whole world.
Being the police of the world.
Being the police and funding the police for the whole world, right? And so I think you see that Senator Lee says, hey, thanks for standing up for our country, our interests first. That's been what this entire campaign for the Trump presidency has been about twice now, and it's what he got elected on. We're going to start to put our interests first, and we certainly want to do that in a way where we're making sure we don't have a blind spot on what our interests really are, but it's hard to argue against the fact that the president, the one message he drove in there is, A, we're not getting, I guess 2 messages. We're not getting pushed around, right? And we're going to put our interests first. And I think as the president has done basically on almost everything he's done since he took office the second time, spot on messaging. Like if you want to get to like just the heart of what the country feels, I think you're playing on like a 70-30 split there to say, yeah, I'm ready to put my interests first.
Yeah, so let's look over to Europe because European leaders, I don't think agree with you, Marty. Or how do I say? Not disagree with you, but maybe see it as a different kind of message, right?
I would wear that as a little bit of a badge of honor.
There you go. Put that on your cape.
That's okay, great.
Prime ministers, presidents, foreign ministers, from across Europe are saying they support Zelensky and they support Ukraine because it wasn't just us watching it or listening to it. The entire world is watching it and listening to it. Strongest comments coming from French President Emmanuel Macron, Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson, and the foreign minister from Estonia, which is actually a border of Russia. Officials from Spain, Latvia, Lithuania, Germany, Poland also offering their support to Ukraine. So your point, oh my gosh, is so well taken that the United States maybe is tired of being responsible for all of the things. The worry that I have, Marty, in a geopolitical, the world that we live in, if we step back, someone is going to step into that power vacuum. So my question for you is, and I like how you said it earlier, we're being mindful of our interest, right, and being thoughtful about it. I'm not sure this fireworks display this morning in the nation's White House, in the Oval Office, is the best way of, signaling us being thoughtful about our interests. Because if we look like we are backing away from Ukraine, that seems to signal to Putin that he can become more of an aggressor, in my opinion. I think it also signals to China that we are not backing other democracies around the world, and I do have concern about Taiwan. And probably it signals to Europe that they should now be in charge of themselves, and then the nuclear proliferation, maybe that follows from that. So I just kind of, I hear you. I have a 15-year-old son. I do not want to be in a prolonged war in Europe. I don't want it to be the case that there is a draft and all of our children go to fight. And I did hear President Trump articulating that, right? It's our military. We are standing up for you. This is what's happening. But I am, I'm worried about when we step back, who steps forward, and what does that look like?
So I agree with what you're saying there in large part. The part that jumps out to me is when you say signal sending. And this is the way it's been done for a long time, the signal sending, right? Oh, I'm going to say this publicly very well crafted so that I send this signal to this signal. I think this administration, like if you talk about how men and women communicate, right? Like, oh, what did he say? What does he mean by that? Versus a man just saying, hey, I'm doing this and doing it. Like, the way two guys talk to each other versus the way a woman thinks a man talks to her.
So the geopolitical world is the woman. They're Venus, and Trump is from Mars.
He doesn't parse his words, right? You pretty much know where he stands on most things. So I would say, one, the signal sending is what he. This goes back, and I'm certainly not the first one to have said this about the Trump administration, and I think it's been applicable to both of them. Is that the key to following what this administration does? Look at what Trump does, not what he says. Saying things to him appears to me, and appears to a lot of people, again, I don't want to take original thought credit here, everything's a negotiation. And so nothing's done until it's done. The deal's not signed and executed until it's signed and executed. So like all of this, nothing really changed. There was no piece of paper that got torn up or anything along, we didn't suddenly pull troops out this morning as part of that meeting. He just was posturing. And those, I guess to that extent, that is signal sending, but it's not signal sending by carefully crafted statements. It's by, hey, you want to puff your chest in my office? I'm going to puff mine too. And guess what? I'm the guy with the military that's bigger than the next 7 militaries.
Yeah, and to your point, let's just listen. Here's President Trump during that Oval Office meeting.
My whole life, that's what I do, is make deals. And I'm in the middle of a mess because this is a real mess. It's a very dangerous one. If this doesn't get solved now, it's not going to get solved for a long time.
So I feel like he just said exactly what you articulated about him, right? So it is, I have to make deals. That's what I do, is make deals. This is how I manage things. Part of that is posturing and puffing up your chest when you're having this conversation, right? And so what did you say? It's what he does, not what he says. All right, so maybe I'm not worried.
Yeah, it's fine.
Everything.
Call it a weekend.
Call it a weekend.
We got an hour and 35 more minutes, but call it a week.
I mean, a little bit, Marty. I think I'm still worried because you tell me, and I guess I haven't seen what President Putin has said, right? But a little bit, if I am the leader of China, if I'm the leader of Russia, if I'm a leader of any country that I don't think we usually ally ourselves with, do I not see this as a fundamental shift in American foreign policy?
Maybe, but maybe to the extent that, hey, maybe for the first time, Americans aren't going to just rush headlong into an armed conflict and with no exit plan, right? Or in this case, we're already in one, so go make it worse in some way. It's tricky to be strong and also be like, essentially our position is we'd like to not be part of this, right? I get that. But I think having watched the full exchange, that what I kept hearing from the president was what he said on the campaign trail. I just want people to stop killing each other. So let's get to this point first. Let's figure out how we can stop shooting each other, stop bombing each other, and then let's go in and talk and figure out how we, through diplomacy, solve this problem and get us out of there, right? And I think on Zelensky's side, he's saying, but he's done this and he's done this and he invaded our country and so on. And I think the president looks at that and goes, yeah, but you already lost that. So let's stop fighting and then let's work out the deal. And guess what? You may not get everything back. That's just how I think that's the bad news the president is delivering is, with us helping you, you might get to save what's left of your country. If we leave, you don't have any of it. So you need to just roll with me and let me go get you the best deal I can get you. Right? Like I feel like that's where that's the message I got out of it.
Right, but a little bit, that's totally fair. But my pushback is, what did we just say to Putin when that happens, right? So again, when he invaded and took Crimea and Obama did nothing, what does that do? That emboldens leaders across the planet to say the United States will do nothing. When we pull out of Afghanistan, because following the same line of reason you just said, we're tired of our military being there, it's not our problem, that country's got to stand up on its own. What does that tell the rest of the world? That we are pulling out of fights? Yeah. And that feels like a fundamental shift in our American foreign policy. It feels like a fundamental shift in we are not going to defend democracy and countries that are republics like ours. Yeah. And I worry about that, not just in this conversation, Marty, but I worry about that and the ramifications.
So that's where I go back to. He hasn't done that yet. He's now talked about it in a fairly public way. If you had a meeting like this tomorrow, but Putin's sitting where Zelensky was sitting today, do you think Putin lets it escalate like that? Or do you think he's the guy who was like, nope, I'm going to make sure there's a KGB emotional maturity, right? Where he's like, I'm going to make sure that I can't imagine that Putin lets that escalate to that point where he gets in like an argument, right? He wants to move the chess pieces carefully. So, one, we haven't done anything yet. We've just said this. And we don't, because we've only seen this side of this argument, we don't know what the behind closed doors version of this looks like between the president, the vice president, and Putin.
All right. So I want to kind of still dig into this, Marty, with you in our next segment, thinking about America's role in all of this, what it means when we back out here. I think it's not just about Ukraine. Maybe you think it is just about Ukraine. Sorry, I'm not going to put you right on the spot. Say that was what you said. So let's argue about it. That's up next.
Good afternoon. It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Shilaos. KSL's top national story this hour. The meeting between President Trump and VP Vance and Ukrainian President Zelensky became heated at the White House. The U.S. leader said that Zelensky had to be more thankful.
Have you said thank you once?
Zelensky argued with that sentiment.
And we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
allowed.
cabinet.
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
allowed.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military equipment.
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment,
you invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
Zelensky had planned to attend to sign a deal allowing the U.S. greater access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals, then hold a joint news conference. Instead, Ukraine's leader left the White House shortly after Mr. Trump shouted at him, showing open disdain. The White House says President Trump is expected to sign an executive order that would designate English as the official language of the United States. This would undo a mandate from former President Bill Clinton that required the government and organizations that receive federal funding to provide language assistance to non-English speakers. Taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow is up by 281 points, sitting at 43,520. S&P up by 41. The NASDAQ up by 116 points. Looks like nice weather for the weekend. We'll get an update of the forecast coming up next. KSL News Time, 1:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
At JCW's, we think tipping might be getting a little out of hand. Like when you're asked to tip at the register before you've even been served. Or when you're at the yogurt shop and find yourself serving yourself. And don't even get us started on frosted tips making a comeback. That's why at JCW's, when you pay for a 3rd-pound ranch bacon cheeseburger, that's what you pay. And no one at the register is going to stare longingly at you while you awkwardly maneuver through the tip screen for food you don't even have yet. Honestly, we're just happy to see you at any of our 5 locations in Provo, South Jordan, Lehigh, Harriman, and American Fork. So come on in and enjoy some quality time and great food with family and friends. And we promise, we won't be pushing you for a tip.
Hey, this is Chris with JCW's, and we just want to say thank you, and especially to our loyal customers. We want you to know that at JCW's, your business is all the tip we need. JCW's, quality and a lot of it.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy. When you go to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by Mountain America's limited time balance transfer bonus. Ricky Meese, what's happening on the roads?
Crews are still working on this crash in Utah County. It's westbound Highway 189, Provo Canyon, near Canyon View Park. We've also had a crash Redwood Road at about 4th South, but a lot of backup on the southbound side of Redwood Road approaching North Temple. Lagoon is hiring full-time year-round ride maintenance technicians and electricians with journeyman or apprentice level experience. Apply online at lagoonpark.com/jobs. Must be 18 years of age or older to apply. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Great weather for your weekend plans. Tomorrow's high 58 up to 63 degrees by Sunday. Just a very slight chance of showers on Sunday. But then on Monday, things changing big time. Temperatures dropping about 20 degrees and a 70% chance of showers. Right now, 48 degrees. I'm Maria Shaleos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Marty Carpenter and Leah Murray back in discussing all things Trump-Zelensky so far today. Maybe not all things, but that's the only thing we've been talking about. The only thing that's been on top of our minds so far today. And, you know, we've talked a little bit about like the geopolitical stuff. And I think if I didn't start it here, I started it before we walked into the studio by saying I'm not a geopolitical expert, right? I can only tell you like what I think the communication element of this is and what I think the ethos that they're driving with this and where they're trying to strike a chord.
So can I just I'm just going to stop you right there, Marty, and say, I'm going to tell you what I think the ethos is a very 1920s, 1930s appeasement. So maybe I'm going to sound like Winston Churchill howling at the moon when everyone was worried about what Germany was doing and what Hitler was doing. And Chamberlain is out there making agreements, right? Don't look at what I'm playing 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional chess, and I'm going to solve all this. And Hitler's like, you're weak. I'll just take another country. You're weak. I'll just take another country, right? In America at that time, Charles Lindbergh gives a speech, and here's my favorite. Let's just see how history repeats itself. It's the America First speech, right? So in 1941, this is not our problem. Regular people, just like you were articulating earlier, don't really want to be in this war. And people who are in power are steering America to war. And this is not our problem. We have an ocean between us. By the way, you heard in the first segment, Zelensky talking about the ocean. Like you think that ocean makes you safe. Charles Lindbergh in 1941 in his America First speech saying that ocean makes us safe. And then Japan bombs Pearl Harbor. I mean, Marty, now a little bit, one of the things we learn as kids is you learn history so you don't repeat it. I sit here and you say, this is the ethos and this is what they're doing. And I think, yeah, and I've seen this film before and it ended with hundreds of thousands of American men dying in World War II. And when they were watching this in 1930, they saw that film before, and many Americans died in World War I. I feel like the ethos they are espousing, to me, leads to a very obvious ending of a movie, and I don't want to be at that ending. I don't want to be in that movie.
Yeah, and I think that's all very valid. I just think that you're coming off of like 80 years post-World War II. Are we at 80 years? 25 plus, yes, yeah, okay. Yeah, so we're 75, 80 years.
Yeah.
Where we've been the policemen of the whole world, and we've been spending all the money.
And we're good at it.
And we are really good at it, but
we're great at it.
But somehow along the line, and this goes I'm going to sound a little bit like J.D. Vance here, people kind of stopped respecting us for doing that and started just assuming we were doing that. And by the way, it's really expensive to do that. And our, if not our number one geopolitical foe, one of the top two, China, is really good at investing resources into itself and positioning themselves to be able to conduct all kinds of new warfare because of their resources. So I think there are a lot of people who say, it's not that I don't care. It's not that I don't think that we should have a role. It's that at some point you've got to replenish the home base before you can go out and be the world's policeman. That doesn't necessarily mean that the right answer is to stop entirely, to not have any presence on the world stage. I don't think it's binary, that you're either the world's policeman or you're not. We may just need to pick and choose our spots a little bit more carefully, but certainly we need to invest at home and get a few things taken care of here, get our house in order so that we can continue to be the world policeman when it's most important.
Yeah, so Marty, two things, right? One, don't you think kind of if we back out, then it's over? A little bit the reason why we are the world's police is because we came out of World War II dominant and then we've maintained that dominance. As we decide to cede that power into that vacuum steps other people, and I'm not sure it's as easy to get it back, right? So I think I don't see it as we're just going to take some moments here, right, and like tend our home base. And then secondly, then how are we choosing? So the answer is the time we decided not to be involved is when a aggressive Putin is deciding to steal parts of Ukraine. How does that not? And again, I've seen that film before. I was a child of the Cold War. How does that not then become the next Soviet Union? We know that Putin has been talking about, I want to be a strong Russia. And so my thing is everyone has to belong in Russia and I'm going to go grab these pieces. I have been in that, right? The hiding under my desk in my elementary school days because we're all waiting for Soviet Union to launch a nuclear weapon at us a little bit, right? So, okay, maybe we should choose better, right? Maybe we should do better picking where we intervene and where we stand up. But this is what we're choosing, is to not stand up to Russia. That makes me nervous. Even if I thought I could go with you, and I'm not sure I disagree with you, but I'm not sure, right?
Yeah, I think we overlap more than.
Yeah, so if I could go with you that it's not binary and let's choose better, this doesn't seem like a good choice.
And is it all a little bit of a continuation of the posturing we've seen around everybody else should chip in here too, right? Like we've had this discussion on the NATO stuff, like nobody's contributing like we are. So now if there's a fight going on in your backyard and we're the ones that have to be the big bully that comes in and ends the fight, while we're in the fight, maybe everybody else could chip in a little bit more along the way in troops, in all the things that go in, right? Equipment, munitions, all of the things that go into this. Part of it's just like, hey, let's have everybody else a little more involved, and part of it could be we've started with this mess. A new administration picked up this mess. We're going to find a way to get it resolved as best we can, and then we're going to be a little more selective about where we jump in and maybe let other folks contribute before we have to be the closer that comes in to end the fight.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a military expert. I'm not a geopolitical expert, but I can just tell you that I think you've got an administration that's running from this position or is planted on this position that the country's a little bit tired because guess what? There will be a next one, and there will be a next one, and there will be a next one. And all we know is that the numbers are really big in dollars that flow out to go solve these things. And it only seems to be dollars when it's not euros and it's not pounds sterling to go help in the way that it should be if we're going to go. So if Ukraine's a problem for the U.S., it's also a problem for Britain, for Germany, for every country in Europe. So, and proximity-wise, it's much more of a problem for them. So why don't we start with them doing their part?
So again, but right there, and this is what I kind of hinted to earlier, but then we're talking about nations around the world building their nuclear stockpiles in a desperate attempt to be strong, to deter Russia from being aggressive again. There are consequences. Your point is well taken that there are costs, right? That we have a $36 trillion debt, which is not only because of the military. I mean, I'm just saying a lot of it is Congress not really budgeting super well. So I mean, like it's about that as well. And so we can absolutely get our house in order. I'm there for that. I feel like it could be both and, right? So I don't read it as the reason we are in the financial mess we are in is because we are a leader in the world. I read it as we could be both. We could do that better. We could manage our finances better. And I'm very concerned about allowing Russia to win.
Yeah. You make the point about if we step away, how do we step back in? The biggest kid can always get back in the fight, right? You can always send Shaq back into the game to get a dunk. Right? Like we're still the biggest military. So if we step back and say, this one's not our...
No, but
this is one we're going to bring to a peaceful conclusion in some way.
Right, but the answer is we look weak, right? We look weak. If it is the case that we have stepped out and now we are not someone who people trust, it is not the case that Shaq is always the best baller.
But when you say we look weak, what I take that to mean is it looks like we have a hesitancy to deploy our substantial military might.
To defend our allies, to defend democracy.
Right, that we're picking and choosing our spots.
Right.
But when we pick a spot, should anyone doubt our ability to win?
No, but if I were Europe, I might doubt the spot, right? So if what I'm picking is now I'm pro-Russia,
right? But
I'm going to tell you
the
like
threat is always there because when we pick, we still win, right?
Yeah,
so
right. But my point again, I think, Marty, is we look. It feels like. It doesn't seem to me, it doesn't read to me like it's an art of the deal, right? So I hear you. Trump is saying, I always make deals. But the first person he talks to is Russia in Saudi Arabia. Yeah. It doesn't seem to me like the deal is now, here's America standing up for this side of the argument, standing up for democracy. What it feels like America is standing with Russia.
Yeah.
That makes me very nervous.
So if we take a step, we take whatever step is to conclude it, and you say if you're China or you're Russia, you go, the Americans are kind of weak. Right? So now I'm going to do this. You are risking whether or not we're so weak
and whether
we've decided that that's not across the line. Because when we do, it's still bringing the biggest kid into the fight that's going to thump everybody, right? So there's always the deterrence comes not because we jump into every fight, but because maybe you don't know which fight we're really going to jump into, and you don't want to press your luck on any of that. Maybe you do press your luck on some of it.
So, Marty,
I don't know. Again, I'm not a military expert. I'm just saying I don't know that us saying that one's not where we're going to expend our energy right now, right? Or we're not jumping into. We're not going to be, because you can also be so much in the policy of we jump into every fight that people can start fights to get you to jump into fights and expend treasure, life, munitions, everything that goes along with that. So there's probably a balance to strike, and I'm just saying if we're not jumping in 100% to every single fight every time someone picks one, that may not be the worst thing in the world.
All right, Marty, next up on Inside Sources, let's pick a fight that's a little closer to home. Let's talk about Utah's legislative session. We'll be right back.
Sign up for KSL Text Alerts. Get breaking news and traffic updates by texting the word news to 57500. Want access to exclusive contests? Text contest to 57500. Jazz fans, text the word jazz for breaking jazz updates. And Cougar fans, text BYU to 57500 for the latest on the Cougars. Message and data rates may apply.
What if your limited inventory had unlimited potential? What if your biggest risk was not taking one? What if you could make every move matter? Bank of America's Business Solutions can help bring your biggest what-ifs within reach. Find out how our digital tools, cutting-edge insights, and trusted expertise can work for your business. What would you like the power to do? Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank sponsor of FIFA World Cup 2026.
Are you 50 or older? This news is for you. The CDC now recommends you get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at risk. People 50 or older are over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia compared to adults 18 to 49. Just one shot can help protect you. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com. That's VAXassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
You wouldn't know it, but most financial advisors are put in a box. I'm Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I want to provide you a little insight about financial advisors. Most financial advisors have to sell what their company requires them to sell, and many advisors have to only adhere to what's called a suitability standard. A suitability standard is a limited standard of care, not requiring what's sold to be best just suitable. Advisors with this loose standard often have limited investment and product selection. Trajan Wealth is held to a fiduciary standard, which is the highest standard of care in the advisory business. And that's just one of the many reasons we have billions of dollars under our care and attract clients from other advisors. Raise your standards today and call Trajan Wealth. Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
It's a classic odor tale. You fried fish for dinner, cleaned up, but the smell is still in the house. And the neighbors are coming over for game night. They're on their way. And then you spray Febreze Air Mist. Febreze Air starts working instantly to fight even your toughest odors, so you go from fish to fresh like that. Now, all you have to worry about is Pam cheating at charades.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la. Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Ooh, got a dash light on? The AutoZone free Fix Finder service can read your check engine, ABS, and other warning lights to help you find the fix. You'll get an easy-to-read report with clear next steps. And we can recommend a trusted local shop if you need one. It's the most complete free warning light report backed by technician-verified fixes. The free Fix Finder service with shop referral. Only at AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Dave and Debbie.
It's impossible to digest and consume all of the news that's now coming at us through either social media or through web pages or through the radio. Pick what is most impactful in your life and focus on that. And that's what Dave and I do every single morning. We pick those issues that are most important to our listeners and we boil it down so it's digestible. It's simple to understand.
I think we're trying to find the essence of the story. You know, you can't be an expert on all things, but that doesn't mean you can't be curious and really find out more and educate yourself and learn the complexities of an issue, but I think all of us start at ground zero on everything. Ask questions, show that curiosity.
And then if you need more research, you can always go to KSLNewsRadio.com and learn more.
Listen for Dave and Dejanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
Discover the thrill of adventure at the Salt Lake Off-Road and Outdoor Expo. Dive into the latest gear, meet industry experts, and explore your passion for the great outdoors. Enthusiasts, friends, and families will learn what's new and what's cool, as well as the chance to win over $40,000 in door prizes and giveaways. Mark your calendars for the 10th annual Salt Lake Off-Road and Outdoor Expo, coming to the Mountain America Expo Center February 28th through March 1st. For tickets and information, visit slorex.com.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Eye on the Hill 2025. Special coverage on Inside Sources.
For a state as western and as rural as Utah, you may have already thought that this was a thing, excusing school absences for students who participate in rodeos. Marty, I'm going to tell you what, I live up in Ogden, and my morning running path takes me by the rodeo in Ogden. And in July, around Pioneer Days, there's all sorts of interesting livestock that are about when I'm running in the morning. So I know rodeo is a thing here in Utah, but I guess if my children were in the rodeo, they couldn't be excused to participate in it. I'm surprised by that. And we've got with us State Senator Mike McKell, who thinks it should be. Welcome to the show, Senator.
Hey, thank you for having me on. And it's good to hear that you're a rodeo fan and you get to run by it every day.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's most fun when the animals are there because you're like, oh, okay, like I'm going to be careful as I go. But first, Senator McKell, you tell us your origin story with rodeo. Are you someone who lassoed or rode a bull or whatever it is that happens?
So I have a barn full of horses, but I sponsor the Fiesta Days Rodeo every year. I sponsor the Youth Stampede Rodeo with our law office. But I'm around this world, and the remarkable thing is our kids compete nationally, and they do really well. We have in the high school rodeo finals in the country, our Utah kids are as competitive as any state. I mean, you would think it would be the kids from Texas and Wyoming, but you see Utah kids on top almost every year.
I don't run by a rodeo place, but my
Marty,
dad grew up in Camas.
You got to work on this.
And I spent summers in Camas, and I've been to the Camas Rodeo and the Oakley Rodeo. I'm very conversant in rodeo, so saddle up. Here. We're good. Senator, tell us.
They say the Oakley Rodeo is second to the Spanish Fork Rodeo, so I'm just going to put that out there.
And now we're getting texts from Summit County, I'm sure. Yeah. Tell us about what the bill would change, and why did you decide to run it now?
So most school districts, to be fair, I don't want to beat up on school districts. Most of them do excuse kids that participate in rodeo. We've had some situations where some kids have reached out, and that's been a problem. So we have a list of excused absences in the code, and what we did is we added kids that compete in high school rodeo. And we just want to make sure that when these kids go out and compete, we treat them just like the kids that we love football, right? We love basketball, we love cheerleading and drill team. Those are kind of automatic, and I want to make sure when these kids are out there competing in rodeo that it's also automatic. I think the skills that these kids learn through rodeo, taking care of equine, and just the learning environment that it brings is just awesome.
So
I love rodeo.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, Senator, can you talk to me about how many? So my child takes horseback riding lessons, right? So she wanted to do rodeo. She could. She just wants to ride and hang out with horses. So that's the path that we went. But how many, how common is it? Are there lots of students who are, working with horses and doing rodeo? Is it like a big percentage of our youth that's, because I like what you said earlier, our youth are competing, they're beating people from Texas, that is awesome.
Yep, they are.
I'm kind of wondering how many students, and then I don't know if this bill makes it possible to excuse to do this work, do you think you'll get more kids involved?
I hope we get more kids involved. I always worry, I've tackled social media. I think it's unfortunate to see kids stuck in front of tablets. I think getting them on horses and on bulls and whatever it might be, I think is really helpful. But there is a large percentage. Obviously, I come from Spanish Fork. We are a rodeo community. That is our big event every year. If you haven't seen it, you should. But I'm in a community where I'm surrounded by kids that do well. And you look, I'm just going to throw this out there. If you look at the podium at the NFR, the National Finals Rodeo, it was full of people from Utah. We do really well as a state. We are very, very competitive in rodeo, and I think this bill recognizes that. And what I want to do is just make sure that we recognize the value of rodeo. We as a state are really, really competitive, and you'll see that every year in Las Vegas in the big rodeo of them all. And it's cool that we get to bring this before the legislature.
Now, rodeo, unless I'm mistaken, is not like an official high school sport anywhere. We're just talking about letting students who participate in that have the same ability to be excused from class as like the basketball team or the football team would be to go participate in their games. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. When they compete in high school rodeo competition, we just want to make sure that they get excused just like the football players.
I'm wondering, so let me just say this. I feel like we also allow students to be excused to go watch a play, right? So I know that sometimes I'm signing field trips, right, or kids are going to watch some kind of arts. So could you be excused to watch a rodeo? Or is it only you're thinking of it as the competitive piece?
You know, in the bill right now, we use the word compete in. So these are our kids that are competing in rodeo. That's probably a discussion for another day. Right now, we've just narrowed it down to our kids that are actually competing.
Do you have any opposition to this measure? Or is
it
being
how
met
is it
generally
doing?
with oh yeah, that makes sense?
You know, not much opposition. We get beat up on the Hill for some of the things we do, but I've had some folks online on Facebook say that this is the best bill of the session. So I appreciate you covering it. There are a lot of kids in the rodeo world that are excited about this bill.
I love this, Senator Mike McKell. It is the best. What did you say? The best
bill of the session.
Best bill of the
Best
session.
bill.
Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
You guys are awesome. Thank you. And don't forget the Spanish Fork Rodeo this year.
Yeah, we got to
Noted.
get there. So I love this, Marty. I love it. It's the best bill of the session. It's an easy one, right? It's about horses and kids. I feel like that's got to be an obvious answer. But I'm wondering, I wanted to ask just a political question to you and see what you thought. One of the quotes in the article we're reading from KSL News Radio has the vice president of the Utah Farm Bureau saying, Senator McKell has a great bill here. It's part of our rural heritage. To a certain extent, is this a piece of kind of rural Utah politics coming into its own a little bit?
Maybe to an extent. I always like bills when someone proposes a change and everyone who hears it goes, oh, wait, that wasn't our policy already? Yeah, okay, let's fix that.
Yeah, but doesn't it feel like, I want to just say, I felt like Celeste Malloy, when she ran a couple years ago in that special election, really doubled down on the fact that rural Utah, not as represented along the Wasatch Front, right? And I've had conversations with people. So a little bit it's like the fact that you just said, of course it should have been in there, but it wasn't. And it is a sport that is a vital part of rural counties and rural Utah, and it wasn't. So a little bit I'm saying maybe this is opening up visibility to what people are doing in rural Utah that I think sometimes along the Wasatch Front we are a little blind to.
It's a very valid point. I looked at it and said, well, there's no fiscal note to it, right? So that always makes it a popular bill when there's no fiscal note. Kids are going to get out of school. And if the alternative is having to have schools pay to have a rodeo team, let kids go participate in the things they need to participate. I look at that and say, when it comes to extracurricular activities, we do a lot to put them in schools. But if they exist outside of schools, the end goal is the same, to have kids participating in things that give them athletic, like an athletic touch, a physical activity, that get them away from the screens, like the senator said, that give them some real-world experience, that teach them some lessons that you can't necessarily just learn in the classroom. All of that's part of it. So if it already exists and it's just a matter of letting kids go do it, that seems like a no-brainer, unless I'm missing something. But it doesn't sound like there's opposition that's formed against it either.
Yeah, no, I think absolutely should go forward. And a little bit, I'll tell you what, they should be off the tablets and they should be hanging out with horses, Marty. There is nothing. My daughter does 3 times a week horseback, and her favorite thing in the world to do is muck out stalls, which I just think is hilarious as a suburban kid myself, right? Like that's not, but I was able in Ogden, which is a very urban community, get my child connected to working with horses, and it does a world of good for a teenager's mental health. I mean, I love it, and I'm hoping this bill opens up more. All right, that's enough of our first hour of Inside Sources. We will stay with Utah's Capitol Hill coming up after the break.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Shilaos. KSL's top national story this hour. Ukrainian President Zelensky has left the White House early after a tense meeting with President Trump and Vice President Vance. Zelensky was called out for not saying thank you to the U.S. for aiding Ukraine in its fight against Russia. Here's a piece of the exchange between the presidents Trump and Zelensky.
Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful.
Zelensky has been pushing for security guarantees with any deal that might be made, but Mr. Trump told Zelensky to either make a deal or the U.S. is out and that he's gambling with World War III. State leaders are giving teachers an extra $1,400 a year. They say it's worth it to invest in education. Governor Spencer Cox says the pay bump has nothing to do with how well students perform compared to the rest of the nation, and it has everything to do with the teachers in Utah's classrooms.
Our priority is to support you, then step back and let you do what you do the very best anywhere in the country. We do more with less than anywhere else because we have more students than anywhere else.
There is also a $1,000 bonus for education support staff and a 4% funding increase for school districts to increase pay for other employees. Taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow ending the day up 375 points, nearly a full percent, sitting at 43,614. S&P up by 56. The NASDAQ also up by nearly a full percent, up 158 points. Get set for a beautiful weekend, an update of the forecast, and we'll tell you when the next storm is going to come. That's coming up next.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
If you've ever experienced running out of hot water before your shower was done, or hard water spots on dishes and fixtures, I've got a deal you might be interested in. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and you probably already know that a tankless water heater and a water softener solve both issues. If you've ever thought about looking into getting a tankless water heater, here's the deal I was talking about. Through the end of February, we're including a free water softener with every new tankless water heater we install. The best part of this deal might be that you never have to worry about being the last one to the shower again, or that you don't have to waste the money keeping 40 to 50 gallons of water hot 24/7. To take advantage of this deal, call Any Hour Services before the end of February. The visit's free and there's no obligation to buy. If you decide to have us install a new tankless water heater, we'll throw in the water softener for free. That's right, a free water softener when you purchase a tankless water heater. Pick up the phone and call Any Hour Services right now for all the details. 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Things are just better when you switch to Cricket. The sun shines a little brighter. Happy music starts randomly playing. Best of all, you can get iPhone 13 for just $29.99. With the ultra-bright Super Retina display and up to 19 hours of video playback, all on Cricket's super-fast 5G network. See? Isn't that better? Smile, you're on Cricket.
Requires new account and port in on $60 plan. First service charge and tax due at sale. $25 activation fee. Terms and restrictions apply. Cricket 5G is not available everywhere. See store for details.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with a Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com and get ready for the workday.
Over 3/4 of Americans will experience foot pain, and most will just live with that pain every day. But Foot Solutions in Orem is here to change that. Here's Amanda from Provo.
I am an active woman, ex-Division I basketball player at BYU. By trade, I'm a PE teacher. Over the last 2 years is when my feet really started hurting.
And that's when Amanda's life changed with a visit to Foot Solutions in Orem.
My experience at Foot Solutions was so unique to any other experience I've had. Over an hour they spent with me, really going over my specific pain points.
After discovering so many solutions and custom in-house made orthotics, what does Amanda want you to know?
Invest in your health. Don't be cheap to your feet. Living a pain-free, active life again has been worth every cent.
Just search for Foot Solutions in Orem and find out more at footsolutions.com.
I'm Amanda from Provo. I'm 47 years old, and Foot Solutions has given me back a pain-free, active lifestyle.
Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by Mountain America's limited time balance transfer bonus. Let's get the latest on your drive. Here's Ricky Meese.
It is out of traffic, but we do have a crash on southbound I-15 at the off-ramp, 2100 South. Look for that over to the shoulder. If you're traveling any of the Valley freeways in Salt Lake County, it's delay-free. The Murdoch Auto Team is celebrating 100 years of winter journeys at Murdoch Chevrolet. Right now, take up to $6,250 off a new 2024 Equinox. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A lot of sunshine with highs near 60 for the weekend, but things changing on Monday. The temperature dropping, the high down to not even 50 degrees, and a 70% chance of showers on Monday, 50% chance on Tuesday. Right now it's 48 degrees. I'm Maria Shilaos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Eye on the Hill 2025. Special coverage on Inside Sources.
Welcome back. Marty Carpenter and Leah Murray with you today. You know, a proposal on Capitol Hill where everything's still, all the action is for another week. Can you believe we're almost to the end of the session?
It goes by very fast, doesn't it?
No.
I guess it depends on your point of view.
It depends on what
right?
you're doing up there. It goes by faster when you don't work up there, for sure. I haven't worked up there and been up there for a lot of this session, so yes, it has gone faster than some.
Yeah.
But would I ever classify it and say unequivocally it goes by fast? No. Usually it's like the longest couple of months of the whole year. But a proposal up there, Leah, on Capitol Hill is looking to make kind of a change, right? So right now, the Chief Justice of the Utah Supreme Court is elected to the position by other justices on the bench. There's a whole process where the governor makes a selection, it's confirmed by the Senate, goes on to the state Supreme Court, but then those justices make a decision on who is the Chief Justice. Now there's a proposal up at the Capitol that would change this, making the position a governor-appointed one, which, it should be mentioned, is similar to the way it works federally,
it's
where
how we do it.
You appoint someone as the Chief Justice, and then you appoint other justices as well. So we got to figure out, like, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing, or do we fully understand it? Let's dig into it a little bit more. State Senator Chris Wilson joins us to talk more about SB 296, judicial amendments. Senator Wilson, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Lee and Marty. Appreciate the opportunity. It's exciting.
Let me start with this question because I'm not sure that I fully know the answer to it. What power or advantage does the Chief Justice have in the Utah Supreme Court that the other justices do not? What makes the position so important?
Well, it's a great question. And I actually, have a list here of the things that the Chief Justice duties. I mean, he chairs the Utah Judicial Council. He oversees the administration of the Utah's judicial system, and he works with that judicial council to manage the policies, budgets, operations. He also acts as the chief administrative officer, for the courts and implementing the rules adopted by the judicial council. And I've got other things he does. He's a representative of the judicial branch on all matters affecting the courts, and he oversees oral arguments, deliberations, and decisions in the cases before the Supreme Court. He obviously delivers the judicial speech in front of the Utah State Legislature. He does during our session. And then he does other duties as provided by law, and be beyond what is regular member of the Supreme Court. So it's a busy position and a very important position for our state.
Senator Wilson.
They do a lot of things.
Yeah, so Marty just said, we know that at the Supreme Court of the United States, the Chief Justice is appointed by the president. That's been true since 1789, right? Going all the way back to the beginning. Can you tell me why we didn't just do it that way in Utah? Like, why is it the case that right now that Chief Justice is selected from inside of that branch?
And I haven't been around since 1789. This is why we haven't compared it to the U.S. Supreme Court, how they picked that justice. But we had some concerns with the productivity of the court. I mean, our Utah Supreme Court has only delivered one opinion in the first 7 weeks of 2025, and they've been one of the lowest producing Supreme Courts in the state and across the nation. And so there's some concerns there, and we're not quite sure. We are concerned that there might be, some plain politics going on, and we just want to try and eliminate the pressure on these justices, to maybe play politics with their colleagues, or the public perception that such political maneuvering might influence their impartiality. So we're concerned about the productivity of the court. And like I said, this is a similar process that all of the justices have gone through. They all have gone through that nominating process, and many of them have done it multiple times as they've moved their way up through the courts. They've rendered opinions on these other lower courts, and then moved their way up until they get nominated for the Utah Supreme Court. So they've been through this process. They've been nominated by the governor in each of those cases. They've gone through this confirmation process with the Senate. They've gone, and then we've been able to allow citizens to weigh in. It's a very transparent process. Citizens can weigh in on any concerns they may have, and then they go through the confirmation, and they're usually approved or confirmed. And this is just the same thing. I'm sure many of those justices have gone through this multiple times. I'm sure they have. So this is just given another level of transparency for citizens to weigh in. It's obviously a very, very important position, and it's every 4 years, and we'll give the governor the opportunity. I'm sure he'll have advisors. He'll get feedback on which of the justices would be best to be selected and confirmed, and go through this process as the Chief Justice. As I mentioned, it's a very important position, and there's a lot of responsibilities.
Yeah, Senator, I think it's an interesting one because a lot of times when you see a bill that's making an adjustment like this, one of the easy accusations is, oh, you're trying to grab power. But in this case, you're actually giving authority not to the legislative branch, but you're shifting it over from the judicial to the executive branch. So I wonder, one, if that was what the discussion was to get to where the authority here goes to the governor. And then secondly, could you give us any insight on where the governor's office is on this one? Are they enthusiastic or just okay about taking on this responsibility? Do they have a position on it that you're aware of?
You know what? I don't know. I don't know their position. I think they've been very positive about it. You got to remember, obviously, this is our constitutional authority. And the courts do depend upon the legislature for many. The Constitution gives us that opportunity in creating courts. I could go through a whole list of responsibilities that the Constitution gives the legislature in setting up courts. So they are dependent on the legislature. We do have an oversight that's very explicit in the constitutional and that gives us that authority. And like I said, we're very concerned about the productivity. I think letting the governor weigh in is a great way to involve all branches, and again to involve citizens through that confirmation process.
Senator Wilson, I see that the bill right now it's at the clerk of the House. Can you tell me what are your chances? You feel like it's going to pass through that chamber as well?
I do. I mean, we got it through the Senate. We passed through the Senate today. It's over in the House. We're obviously, like you mentioned earlier, we're down to 1 week, and it's crazy. It's a very, very busy time. Many of you, Lee and Marty, both of you have experienced this as far as being up here on the Hill and watching this process. But we've got a week to go, and you'll go over to the House, and then hopefully we'll have time for a House committee hearing, and then we'll go and present it. But I have high expectations. I feel really good that this bill will pass, and I'm excited about it. I really do believe it's a great process. We're always looking for good policy. I have no animosity whatsoever for any of our judges or judicial system. I just think this is good policy to emulate, the federal policies, how they use it. And I, like I said, we are concerned about the productivity. Somebody needs to be held accountable for one opinion in 7 weeks, or only 20. I think it was 25 opinions in 2023. That's just that's a problem. And so I hope this will help introduce. And we think that if we eliminate that possibility of the politics being involved, we think they're going to be a lot more productive. And I think this is a great solution.
All right. Senator Chris Wilson, thanks so much for your insight on this. We appreciate it. Coming up on Inside Sources, raises for Utah's teachers and bonuses for support staff. More on that coming up.
There she is, founder and CEO. High five.
Dave can't stop celebrating with every business owner in town.
All right, Baker Man, high five.
He's sharing the excitement of big savings with the Comcast Business 5-year price lock guarantee.
Ooh, up top, bike shop. Yeah.
It's 5 years of gig speed internet.
Quick, high five.
5 years of advanced security.
5 years.
And 5 years of a great rate that won't change.
Yeah, law partners. Chamberlain, Messethorpe, Dubois.
All from the company with 99.9% network reliability. Switch today and get the 5-year price lock guarantee.
5 years.
It's back, but only for a limited time.
Woo!
Powering 5 years of savings, powering possibilities. Comcast Business.
Can't forget you, voiceover guy.
Ah, thanks, Dave.
High five.
Ends 3/9/25. Guaranteed rate applies to monthly service charge for new customers on qualifying internet bundle, excluding taxes and fees. Other restrictions apply.
Take advantage of Yes Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric's $99 or it's free mainline drain clearing special. That's right, $99 or it's free. Feel secure knowing the trusted professionals at Yes guarantee that if we can't clear it, you don't pay for it. Whether it's a small clog or a larger mainline sewer drain issue, the experienced technicians at Yes are ready to solve all of your drain problems. Call now or visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions.
The Management Minute is a service of the MBA program in the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University. I'm Professor Scott Hammond. Next time somebody says, "I'm absolutely sure," watch what happens. The speaker just claimed all of the right in the room. You can agree or disagree, but you can't modify or clarify. The late Senator Frank Church of Idaho once told me that you will always gain more support if you allow others the privilege of amending your truth. In other words, don't announce truth, build truth together. I'm sure that will work better. At least pretty sure of it. Learn more about persuasive leadership with an MBA from Utah State University. Go to utahstatemba.com for more information. That's utahstatemba.com. I'm Scott Hammond. Hope to see you in one of our classes.
Greg Carlisle here for Jordan Camper, your truck accessory headquarters at 7000 South State in Midville. Why do I mention my name? For years, I've been the radio voice for Jordan Camper commercials, but I wanted to speak to you as a satisfied customer this time. I love the Line-X protective coating they sprayed on my front and back bumpers of my 2005 Mustang over 5 years ago, and it still looks new. Line-X is famous for durable truck bed coatings with a lifetime warranty. Jordan Camper is family-owned for 5 generations, and their team has over a combined 175 years in team experience installing truck accessories. I've seen them complete work for hundreds of satisfied customers over the years. These guys are good. Jordan Camper specializes in truck top shells and folding, retractable, and one-piece truck bed covers, and a wide range of accessories from fender flares, floor mats, to towing products. Check out their great showroom at 7000 South State in Midvale. More information at jordancamper.com.
Are you and your credit card ready for some peace and quiet? Experience the relief of a low rate with the Mountain America credit card. With a 3% cash bonus on balance transfers, it's more relaxing than ever. Open a Mountain America credit card today for your limited time bonus. Details at macu.com/transfer. Loans and approved credit. Membership required based on eligibility. Offer can change or be withdrawn at any time. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply.
Millions plan for retirement online. Estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, and manage your benefits all from the comfort of your home. And give yourself the freedom to do what you want offline. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Eye on the Hill 2025. Special coverage on Inside Sources.
We're announcing today a $1,400 direct salary increase. That's a $50 million appropriation for teachers directly to their salary. We're also announcing a $1,000 bonus for their support staff.
That's State Senate President Stuart Adams today announcing a salary increase for teachers. President Adams, House Speaker Mike Schultz, and Governor Spencer Cox discussed their investment in education earlier this morning. The salary increase and one-time bonus came alongside other changes and investments, which state leaders say are a way to congratulate teachers for the work that they do. Leah Murray alongside Marty Carpenter. Marty, let me just reveal that my husband is a high school teacher. So maybe
congratulations. How are you going to spend the money?
Maybe that's a conflict of interest. On my child going to college, right? So it's going to go right back.
It's on horses. Now you're spending it on horses. We already learned.
On horses, that's right. So talk to me about education has been a top priority of the House Majority Caucus. Like, I work for higher education a little bit. I'm going to tell you, we all feel like they have a lot of feelings about us. But I think taking care of what students get, I mean, especially for Speaker Mike Schultz, the Catalyst centers that he's been talking about across the state. And I think he believes he cares about teachers.
There's a narrative out there being pushed by a small group of people that the narrative, and that narrative is the legislature doesn't like our teachers and that we don't value education. That is simply not true. I want to set the record straight on that. Again, these are our family members, and these are the people educating our kids, our most valuable assets.
I love that. Our most valuable assets.
I've always wondered about this too, at least from the time that I've been involved in state government. By the time I got to the Herbert administration, it felt like we were only fighting over whether we were increasing the WPU by 4% or 4.5%, or by 4.5% or 5%, or by 6%. I think we did 6% one year. And, nobody knows what the WPU is unless you really follow education funding. As I understand it, we've had starting salaries for teachers that now go up. Like, we're not the worst in the country. We're up kind of in the middle of the pack. It just, if anything, shows you how hard it is to kind of shake a stigma, right? That, like, it feels to me that probably since at least 2012, 2013, that goes back to like my first time in the Herbert office, where we're trying to put more and more money into education. Education hasn't been cut in any of those years, K through 12. And then we're still kind of battling this idea that somehow we don't value education when, a Republican supermajority up there has done nothing but fund education. Now, they may have a fight with administration and the way things are done in certain ways, but as far as funding it and supporting teachers, at some point you have to look at like what they've done, not what other people say, and say they've really done a lot to help in this area.
Yeah, Marty, I think you and the speaker are onto something. We hosted a town hall up at Weber State with a couple of legislators, and someone stood up and said, we're the least funded in the country, right, for WPU. I mean, they said per pupil spending. We are but
I don't think we are.
And we're not. So the legislators saying, no, we are the worst for paying teachers. Actually, we're top 10 in the country for teacher starting pay. Yeah. So your point is really well taken. I think the speaker is right.
Yeah. Everybody needs to get the new talking points that we're not that anymore. We're something different.
And President Adams talking about Utah having large classes, but number 1 for ACT scores, number 4 for 8th grade reading, number 3 for math for 8th graders, and a little bit saying we want this to be a congratulations, right? Governor Cox saying, It is not about lawmakers, why the classrooms are doing well, why students are doing well. It's teachers in the classroom that is the reason, and we want to celebrate that.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good thing, right? Like, does anyone look at this and say, oh, well, if you got the money, yeah, you should definitely find a way to reward good work there. There's some other nits you might find a way to pick at it, but I don't see that this being met with a whole lot of opposition to say, how in the world could they have done this?
All right, so let's hear from the UEA response, and I say that as I'm about to play a sound.
So I guess I should have said
right.
external opposition,
Yes.
anyone besides teachers being
That's right.
objecting
All right.
to
So, Marty, the UEA had a response to this, the Utah Education Association, saying that the assertions made by Utah's leadership are nothing more than political posturing that ignores the reality facing Utah's public schools. That the salary increase, is an important recognition of the education profession, but the public schools remain underfunded, classrooms are overcrowded, educators are struggling under the weight of unsustainable workloads. It's like they live on two different planets, right, Marty? So you've got the speaker and the president feeling like we are number 2, we're number 10, it's the best in the world, in the country. And then the UEA saying it's underfunded, it's bad, and no one's paying attention.
Yeah, and this goes back to like our first 3 segments. You can see President Trump going, you don't say thank you, or I guess it was Vice President Vance. You haven't said thank you. You haven't said thank you yet. The first paragraph of your response is, everything's horrible. They barely said thank you to it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So that basically how do I say?
Can't you be opposed to each other after you say thanks
Marty,
for the money?
right. So the first thing was like, thank you so much for the increase.
Yeah.
And now blah, 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 blah is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Would have landed maybe.
Unfortunately, everything else is horrible. It's like, can't we just have a moment? Can we have a moment together?
So let's talk about this, right? So can we juxtapose it if that's okay, Marty?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how are they going to pay for it? Because everything that I have heard is this is a little bit of a revenue lean year. If they're going to give this much money into education, which, by the way, for the record, I am totally fine with doing, something else probably has to give.
Yeah, I mean, look, every year you start with a pool of money. You got to kind of guess at what it's going to be. You get some updated numbers in February. You kind of tighten those things down, and you have to go on and make adjustments in the following months anyway as things shake out before the actual fiscal year starts in July. So, yeah, we don't print money, so yeah, it does have to come from somewhere. And if anything, that speaks to the amount of prioritization that an expenditure like this gets. To say, this is important to us, we want to prioritize giving this bonus or salary increase, whatever, is directly to the teachers. Is it a bonus or is it a salary? I heard salary increase from President
$1,400 salary increase to teachers.
So is that an ongoing salary increase, or is that an increase to their salaried money this year? I just don't know if it's a one-time expenditure or not.
No, I think it's like an increase to the salary going forward, but I possibly am reading this inaccurately. The $1,000 bonus is for the support staff. So, Marty, I think the teachers are getting a salary increase that's going to carry forward, but the support staff are going to get a bonus that is just this one-time bonus. I mean, I think the question that I have, and we've been talking on this show a lot about bills coming through, one of the conversations was about removing taxes on Social Security. I think the governor was looking for that. I feel like he said the rest of the country has that. President Trump thinks we should get rid of that. But man, no one's talking about it anymore. And maybe I'm just making something up out of whole cloth, Marty, but maybe, right, that Social Security tax removal goes away as we are funding things like this.
I think you're at the point in the session when the budget is most like the big rocks are in and we're putting the sand in and trying to make sure
that's
things
interesting.
fit,
Talk
right?
to us about that. So what you're saying is like, I like that the big rocks are in. We are laying a, mosaic rock garden.
Well, we're around the margins now, right? Like, and that goes with the way they do this anyway, where they pass the base budget in the first, 10 days or so of the session, get that signed. So they've got the operating base budget in, and then they can go figure out where a lot of the discretionary type things and where they can move around the margins.
But the answer, I love how you just said that. If we are not doing a Social Security tax removal, we're probably not. Like, we would know at this point in the session. Wouldn't that be a big rock?
Not necessarily. That
Okay.
could still be a final week thing. There a lot of pieces shuffling around up there right now. So I couldn't say one way or another whether they're going that direction or not. I did like the list that came out as part of the press release that said, here are the things that we're proposing for funding education this session. There's the $50 million that goes to the $1,000 salary increase, $446 for educator salary adjustment into the base budget. There's $50 million for $1,000 bonuses for educator support staff. There's another $178 million for that 4% increase. There's a list of about 10 different things here where we're saying this is all the stuff that we're adding to education. It goes back to our first discussion point that this is a legislature that actually does a lot for education. It seems to have its biggest beefs with education administration, more so than it does with teachers.
Yeah.
And so this is another way of saying, and I think they made this point, this money is bypassing every other spot where it could be siphoned off, and it's going directly to the teachers.
Yeah, and Marty, then they're going to balance the budget because the Utah State Legislature is required to.
No choice.
Next up on Inside Sources, national budget talks are ongoing. There's another government shutdown looming in 2 weeks. We're going to have on Congresswoman Celeste Malloy next.
Good afternoon, 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. Our top story this hour, we are covering the aftermath of the Trump-Zelensky battle in the Oval Office. You can expect a full report coming up at 3 o'clock here on KSL News Radio. Meantime, the Vatican says the Pope's health has grown worse after he suffered a coughing fit and inhaled vomit. Officials say Pope Francis has been placed on a ventilator, a setback in his 2-week battle with double pneumonia. Teachers and other government employees in Utah could soon be banned from flying pride flags in schools or government buildings. This proposal is one hurdle away from the governor's desk.
Bill sponsor Representative Trevor Lee says this is about political neutrality.
If there is something that's considered political and makes someone feel uncomfortable, that they shouldn't have to worry about the government pushing and enforcing or pushing any type of ideology.
The proposal's already passed through the House, and it drew a big crowd of passionate public commenters on both sides of the issue in a Senate committee hearing today, including Ava Curtis, who identified as a member of the LGBTQ+ community.
Queer people's identities should not be seen as political. This flag does not exclude straight and cis students. It just creates a space welcoming if queer people want to display symbols of love.
The committee ended up voting 4-1 to send the bill to the full Senate. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
We're watching Utah's money at this moment. The Dow is up 601 points today, and coming up, a warm and wonderful weekend on the way, but it ends there. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 2:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Les Olson IT is now a Ricoh Graphic Arts and Production Systems dealer. Ricoh chose Les Olson because of our reputation for superior service and national recognition. Les Olson IT chose Ricoh Graphics because they're the best value compared to other commercial-grade printers. Ricoh excels in high volume, high speed, high resolution, and offers an exciting fifth color. Learn more at lesolson.com.
Les Olson IT.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy. When you go to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
Hi, Susan. We haven't seen or heard from you.
Cold.
We would like to locate Joyce.
The mysteries that made podcast history
Cherie Warren disappeared.
are now together for free at KSLPodcasts.com.
I'm Dave Cawley, the host of Cold. Join me for Season 1, The Susan Powell Case Files. Season 2, Justice for Joyce. And Season 3, The Search for Cherie. Listen anytime for free at KSLPodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-275-1728. That's 800-275-1728.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? Yikes. When it comes to Big Wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Here's how to get the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Switch to Consumer Cellular. Plans start at just $20 a month, and that's not a short-term promo. Our U.S.-based experts will get you switched and saving in about 20 minutes. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com and start saving today. Plans include $5 credit for autopay and e-billing.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's limited time balance transfer bonus. Here's Ricky Meese.
Road work causing some slower speed southbound I-15 from Riverdale to Roy in Weber County. And heads up, downtown Salt Lake City drivers. Officers are working on a rollover crash at the intersection of 6 South 200 West. Southbound lanes completely shut down. Eastbound traffic also partially blocked. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
The KSL weather forecast, 58 degrees with sunshine tomorrow. Some clouds and 63 on Sunday. Then comes the Monday storm. It's 52 right now at the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Leah Murray, Marty Carpenter in today. The U.S. House has been working on a budget resolution. Every time I'm here, we're working on another budget issue, another possible stoppage. That's how you know it's time for me to come in and host on this show is, when's the government going to run out of money? Let's bring Marty back in so he can complain that he's always here when we're running out of money. All right, but this budget resolution has taken kind of a windy path to get to where it is right now, ahead of the government shutdown deadline in 2 weeks. Maybe I'll be back in 2 weeks. Republican leaders in Congress are working to figure out the budget. Now, we're going to chat with Utah Congresswoman Celeste Malloy during this segment about the budget and where things stand right now. Congresswoman, thanks so much for joining us.
I'm happy to be here with you guys. I did step out of a meeting to talk to you, so if you can hear a lot of chatter behind me, that's why.
I thought that was the president, vice president, and President Zelensky arguing behind you.
I have not had a chance to watch that yet. I've just heard rumors.
All right. So I was going to lead with that and say, what's your take on it? But sounds like you're going to get the 10 minutes of like catching up on the video when you get a chance to see it. Based on what you've heard from people who are saying, hey, you've got to see this, has the general reaction been sort of shocked that it happened? Or maybe you could, if you haven't seen it, just tell us what the buzz is in D.C. right now.
Most of what I've heard is people from Utah texting me and just saying, have you seen it? You need to go watch it. So I think a lot of shock. I think some people think that it's time to talk tough with Zelensky because he talks tough. But I don't dare weigh in too hard either way because I haven't seen it.
Fair enough.
No, I think that's totally the right answer, Congresswoman. Thank you.
I'm mad that when I was a spokesman, I never thought of, wow, we haven't seen it yet, so we can't comment. That could have gotten me out of some situations back in the day. Okay.
Yeah. Congresswoman, can you tell us, so you just stepped out, you said, of a meeting, but I'm thinking the budget, just talk to us. I don't know if it's a meeting about the budget, so if it is, you can share that. But also, what is it? You guys passed the big, beautiful bill, so what is happening? How is this going?
Well, we didn't pass the big, beautiful bill yet. We passed the resolution that lets us do the big, beautiful bill.
Oh, Congresswoman, I do apologize.
You guys don't follow my social media.
Oh, my gosh.
Next time I come on, I'm going to need you to have watched all of my videos.
I love you because literally right there, I do watch your videos and I paid attention and I feel horrible I said it wrong. So I just misunderstood.
No, you're fine.
So tell us what's going on.
Most people don't understand this, so I'm happy to explain it. We have to pass a budget resolution to start the reconciliation process. So I keep telling people this is like the key that unlocked the door to let us go into the reconciliation room. So we passed a budget resolution that tells the committee chairman, I think 13 committees, to go find savings of up to this much, or, that they can spend up to this much. And that is a little bit like playing on The Price is Right. If we can be under, but we can't be over. So if it says to the Ways and Means Committee go find $50 million in savings. They could find $50 billion in savings, and it would be fine. But if they only found $49 million in savings, we'd have to throw out the whole Ways and Means title. So some people are complaining that the numbers look a little low. The reason they look a little low, although they are very ambitious, they're not quite as high as people expected because we can go over, but we can't go under. So there's that. Now all of those committee chairs will go work with their committees and find the savings they can. They'll bring that back, and all of those committee pieces will get stitched together into a reconciliation bill, and that's the one big, beautiful bill. So we set the stage. We said it's going to be one big, beautiful bill. Now we have to write the bill.
What are the biggest hurdles between here and where Leah thought we were 2 minutes ago?
Yeah, no, I apologize. Yeah.
I think the biggest hurdles are other members of Congress, honestly. We've got all of the committees that have to go do their job and find the savings, and then we've got to get everybody in our conference on the same page to vote yes to that reconciliation bill that will result from all the committee work. There are a lot of people involved in this process, and we don't have a lot of margin for error in the House. So it's a matter of the committees doing the work that we just told them to do in the resolution, and then everyone on the team agreeing that we've done the work well so that they'll vote yes.
Yeah, I feel like right there is the rub, right? So, Congresswoman.
Always.
Yeah, so how confident are you that the conference, the Republican conference, is going to all be voting yes? Because you're not wrong, that narrow margin, right? So how confident are you that that's going to happen?
Well, I'm fairly confident because nobody in America wants to see a Republican Congress get in the way of accomplishing Trump's goals. The Trump tax cuts need to be renewed. If they're not, it'll be a huge tax increase for just about everyone in the country. And that's part of the one big beautiful bill. So we've got to renew the tax cuts. We've got to come up with savings. It's all part of the same process. And so there will be parts that people like better than others. There will be some people who are happier with the deal than others. But nobody wants to be the Republican congressman who stopped us from renewing the Trump tax cuts.
That's a really interesting element. It's a really interesting element of this because I can't think of a time in my adult life when the White House kind of had that kind of cachet or power to say, like, look, this is the agenda. We're all doing this, and they're going to be like, anyone in Congress can sort of hold out a little bit to try to leverage a slightly better deal for their district or whatever their priority may be. But ultimately, this feels like the first time the White House, at least on the Republican side, has really had the hammer to say, guys, we're getting this deal done, and you better get on board.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's just that the White House is saying that. I think it's that we all intuitively know it because Trump won the popular vote. The American people voted for Republicans in the Senate, Republicans in the House, Republican in the White House on promises of securing the border and getting the economy under control. We're $36 trillion in debt. That's unsustainable. So we're going to have to make some really hard decisions. And when you have to make really hard decisions, they're going to make life uncomfortable for constituents. We don't like to make life uncomfortable for our constituents because they come yell at us at town halls. But we have to. And so the White House hasn't even had to weigh in on a lot of this because we all know we have to renew the tax cuts. We have to find savings that our public isn't going to put up with us failing.
Right. No, Congresswoman, right there, I was thinking you do go to a town hall and you get yelled at. We've been seeing videos of that, right, coming out of places like Georgia. And I just kind of wonder, how do you manage that? And we only have like a minute left. So that's a huge question and just like a minute left.
Well,
yeah.
I've had one town hall so far. It was in Tooele County. And a lot of people showed up because they were angry about things that are happening in the government. I answered their questions. I'm going to keep doing them. I think my next one's going to be in Salt Lake County. I'm going to try to get everywhere in my district. People have the right to yell. They have the right to express their political opinions. And it's my job to hear what my constituents have to say. So I would rather have fun town halls where everybody's happy. But when they're not happy, I will still have town halls.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And I'm wondering, I was actually just kind of reading an AP article. It looks like one of the issues is exactly what you just said. There are funding in districts, right? Like if we close the IRS, that affects my district. I'm up in Utah 1, right? So I'm just, you're going to hear about
jobs.
it. Yeah.
They can get green
and when they fire people at the Forest Service or the BLM, it affects these rural counties in my district.
Right.
There will be real world consequences for us fixing the deficit, and everybody's going to feel some pain.
You know, if there's one thing I can say about Congresswoman Malloy is that having seen her on the campaign trail, having seen her in action during her time in office, she likes to go talk to people.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily like to get yelled at, but she does like to go, like she defaults to going to being with her constituents. And it's one thing I've always appreciated about her. All right.
Thank you.
Congresswoman, thanks so much for checking in. Watch the video and then
I'll
text
get
me
better,
and
I
Leah
promise,
tonight and
I
tell us
promise.
what you thought.
Okay,
All right.
when I come back on the next time there's a budget crisis and you're there, we'll talk about it.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. All right, coming up in our final segment on Inside Sources, in case you didn't already know, the United States does not have an official language, at least for the moment. President Trump aims to change that. We're going to talk about it in English after this.
When it comes to great deals on tax prep, Jackson Hewitt isn't holding back, and neither is this commercial. Their offer is so big, it has to be said with Reverb. Expert tax prep for $149 or less. It's a deal so spectacular, it needs a symphony, some explosions, and a clock ticking, because this offer, $149 or less. And soon, one expert tax prep for $149 or less. Try Jackson Hewitt today and save. Whew. Limited time offer for new clients on federal returns. Participating locations only. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com/149. Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-838-6161. That's 800-838-6161. 800-838-6161.
Did you know 96% of Americans lose an average of $111,000 in Social Security income? And it's because they claim their benefits at the wrong time. Don't lose $111,000 in Social Security income that's rightfully yours. Learn how you could wring every nickel out of your benefits on Retirement Solutions Radio this Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, right here on KSL, News Radio 1027.
Salt Lake Community College doesn't just support students. We support the economy.
Ken Garff has recently partnered with SLCC, which provides an affordable automotive program, which gives an easy pathway to come work for Ken Garff. The more a technician is trained, the higher producing they become, and it's better for our overall business. My name's Sebastian, and I'm responsible for Ken Garff's technician recruitment efforts.
SLCC is invested in creating a strong workforce for a strong Utah. See our impact at slcc.edu/community.
Life can feel hard or overwhelming sometimes, but you don't have to face things alone. Getting help for yourself or someone you're worried about starts with a call or text to 988, where you always have someone to talk to, someone to help you, and somewhere safe to go. 988 Utah is here for anyone experiencing mental health challenges or emotional distress. 988 Utah can even help you navigate how to support your struggling loved ones. Whether you're struggling with anxiety, depression, or suicidal thoughts, trained professionals are ready to listen and provide free, confidential support 24/7. Utah, don't hesitate to call or text 988 for you or someone you care about. The caring staff at 988 Utah can connect you to the right resources. Learn more at 988.utah.gov.
It doesn't matter if your only neighbors are wildlife or just wild in general. If you work from home or work is technically at home, every homeowner can save money by getting a ThermWise home energy plan from Enbridge Gas. Discover ways to make your home more energy efficient and apply for rebates if you purchase any energy efficient appliances. Schedule a home energy plan from Enbridge Gas at thermwise.com.
Discover the thrill of adventure at the Salt Lake Off-Road and Outdoor Expo. Dive into the latest gear, meet industry experts, and explore your passion for the great outdoors. Enthusiasts, friends, and families will learn what's new and what's cool, as well as the chance to win over $40,000 in door prizes and giveaways. Mark your calendars for the 10th annual Salt Lake Off-Road and Outdoor Expo, coming to the Mountain America Expo Center February 28th through March 1st. For tickets and information, visit slorex.com.
Transform your old, outdated kitchen with Half Price Granite. For a limited time, Half Price Granite is offering special pricing starting at $25 per square foot installed. That's lower than most big box stores. These prices are some of the lowest around. Granite, quartz, marble, and quartzite, all starting at $25 per square foot installed. Call 801-486-1700 or visit halfpricegranite.com. Half Price Granite, affordable luxury.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Jeff Kaplan.
I'm energized by breaking news. First of all, because it's right now, and second of all, because in many cases the audience needs to know. There's no more important service that we can provide, and I find it critically important to get more details to the audience as quickly as possible. There's nothing more energizing than that for me. Not at all. The most important thing we do is breaking news. I am gratified that so many people listen to me every afternoon on KSL, but what they don't know is that there are so many people behind the scenes making it happen, checking on the traffic, answering the phones, making the calls, talking to the newsmakers. They're out in the street, into the field to get the raw information, and then putting it all together so that I can sit in front of a microphone and be a source of information every afternoon. But there are so many people who make it happen. That's what you don't know.
Ride Home with Jeff Kaplan, weekdays 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
In the nearly 250 years of the Republic, the United States has never had an official language. By the way, Utah has an official language. I Googled this, Marty, and the answer is, according to Utah code, English is declared to be the official language of Utah. And Utah is not the only state that has it. A number of states, I think it's like 30 states, have English declared as their official language, maybe a few more. So English is the language that most of us use. But 250 years ago, conversations around what the official language should be, actually at that time, they were like it would be German because most of the people in America at that time spoke German. And they chose not to pick a language because it was like, that would be hard, right? So you would offend some of the groups, right? Not all of the groups. But now, Marty Carpenter, President Trump says he's going to change all of that with yet another executive order. How do you feel?
I speak English. I speak Spanish. I'm pretty conversant in both. But I'd like, to me, this is like one of those 80-20 issues probably where he's just picking one that's like, hey, we've spoken English as a country for most of our history. We should always just do that. And I don't look at it as either a controversial position to take, nor do I think it's like, oh, this is really important policy that we're getting in on. I think if you were to ask most people and say, what is the official language of the United States, they wouldn't Google it. They would say it's English because that's what most people not only speak here now, but have throughout most of our history. And that's just the way it is. And if you could just, even if you declared it to be, if you declared it to be Spanish tomorrow, it doesn't change the fact that most of us speak English. As I understand it, most of what this does is just says, it has to do with what language are documents offered in by requirement by the government.
So it's interesting. What the White House said was designating English as the national language promotes unity, establishes efficiency in government operations, and creates a pathway for civic engagement. I'm just interested, like right there, that last beat, the civic engagement makes me, as someone who directs the Walker Institute up at Weber State University, who cares about civic engagement, I'm interested in what the pathway is, right? Or why they would have looped that in. I feel that the establishing efficiencies may be the most persuasive argument for me because I do think a government, so I'm going to just tell you, I grew up in upstate New York, which is just a couple of hours from Quebec.
Yeah.
So Quebec speaks French, the rest of Canada speaks English, and they have been arguing about that, forever, right? So a little bit, if you are in Quebec visiting Canada, I can't read the road signs, right? They're in English and French, but they're mostly in French. I was there a couple of years ago while they were voting for their parliament, and I was watching a debate, and it was all in French. So I was like reading, because I was trying to see what are they arguing about here in Canada. As a political person, I was interested, but I don't speak French, so I'm like reading, the captions to figure that out. So I do think it can be inefficient for a government to have more than one language officially. This executive order rescinds a requirement by President Bill Clinton, so that's like 30 years ago, that required the government and organizations that receive federal funding to provide language assistance to non-English speakers. So Marty, when I was thinking about this, where I thought it might land is, for example, I think Salt Lake County has ballots in languages that are not English.
And they still would be allowed to, even though there's a official language. Like it would go to what the state, like even though the state has an official language, it doesn't prohibit people or any entity from publishing something in other languages. It just takes away the requirement that they would have to do that, as I would understand it, or at least the way I would make an assumption there.
Okay.
Generally in this argument, there are two terms that pop to mind as we're talking about this. One is melting pot, and the other is assimilation. And, a lot of people love to always bring up that the United States is a melting pot of many cultures. And I agree with that, right? That's pretty hard to argue against. We have people who've come here from all over the world, and particularly many parts of Europe. But that word melting tends to be like, okay, well, you're going to sort of all form into one, right? That takes you to that other word I had, assimilation. And I wonder about this. I'd love to get your insight on this, Leah. Do you think that how much, I don't want to put a number on it necessarily, but I would say that a lot of the challenges we have with immigration, beyond like border security and such, and if you want to say the unease that the public has, whether that's high unease or low unease, depending on where you fall on that spectrum, whatever level of unease you may have with immigration, a lot of it could boil down to our ability to effectively help people assimilate. Right? When people come here from another country and they do it by law and they get here the right way, that's one big hurdle. The second one is then now you're here, how do you keep what's great about the country you came from, but really embrace being an American, right? Because I have ancestry from France. I'm not a French American. I have it from England. I'm not an English American. I'm an American, and I was born here, and this is where I've grown up. And I feel like I'm part of the culture here. I just wonder, do you think I'm way off base there? Am I missing some element there to say, if we all have, if we did better at assimilation, we may have less of a general public unease about immigration.
So I need you to know, with a big smile on my face, Marty, as a fan of Star Trek, being assimilated is maybe not a great thing. I think that's what the Borg did to people. But yeah, your point, and
I remember that the guys in red always died first. That's about what I know about Star Trek.
You might not be a Trekkie, but I think it's interesting. I don't really call us a melting pot. My vision of it is more like a quilt, right? So it's a multicultural background. We all come from different places. Our immigration stories, right, are very varied, right? So some of us have families who have arrived here 400 years ago. Some of us have families that arrived here more recently than that. I don't think that the unease about immigration has to do with whether people become some definition of American that we think it is. I think there are other issues in play, right? I think a little bit America.
Right. I wouldn't simplify it down to it's just that.
Yeah.
But to a certain extent, if everyone assimilated more wholeheartedly, right? If you said, okay, you've come here, by second generation, we got to have full English speakers. We got I just think that people say, if you're going to come here and be part of.
But it's interesting that you say that. My husband, his last name is Gaggi. He is Italian American descent. His grandparents were immigrants.
Yeah.
And they adamantly, like the great grandparents and the grandparents, were like, we will only speak English in the home because the only way we will fit and belong here is because we speak English. But people were still mean to them as being immigrants.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so I kind of feel like.
Oh, I'm not, and nor am I trying to say like, oh, this is what solves it all. But it certainly is helpful when I think people look at immigrants and say, if you've come here and you are, I love America, I want to be American, I want to fully participate here, I want to do all the things that Americans do. That's heartwarming for people who are here because we want to welcome you if you want to come be part of us.
Yeah,
right?
So let me ask you a question, and this is just kind of a little bit tangent, if you're
Sure.
okay. Just pivot with me for a second. So I'm with you, and let's have a conversation about English, and we were kind of teasing that out. But it is the case that there is a Congress, right? And what I heard in our last segment was Congresswoman Celeste Malloy saying, we know that the voters voted for President Trump and he won the popular election. A little bit, Marty, why does he need to do this with an executive order? If it is the case that everything you just said is true, right? This is about building unity and it's about, I hate the word assimilation because I am a Trekkie, but okay, it's about assimilation. We'll just leave it that. then why don't we use Congress and the Republican leadership that we have in Congress to pass that bill?
Yeah, having been accused at some point during today's show of being sort of like a Trump apologist or having drunk the Kool-Aid, which is funny because I don't feel like that's necessarily who I am, but I would maybe attack it this way, that the thing. Just because you do it with an executive order doesn't mean that legislation is not coming later, right? So executive orders are not like a way you can get stuff done early, quick, and certainly this president has shown it can be a tour de force of here's what I'm signing, this is what we're changing. There have been a number of times already on other things, not related to the official language, where they've taken a step on a policy via executive order where I've said to my friends, I hope they've got a path to go do this by legislation because that's when it sticks.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to Inside Sources. Next up, Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News. Have a lovely weekend.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon, 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. We're at 52 degrees. KSL's top story, the colossal argument in the Oval Office, which began with J.D. Vance asking Ukraine's president...
Have you said thank you once?
Zelensky said he's expressed his thanks to the American people many times. It went downhill from there.
And we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
allowed.
cabinet.
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
allowed.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid
you.
president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military equipment. And your men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about...
But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty.